In 1857, as a great rebellion swept across India, the British Empire, the most powerful force on the planet, ran into an enemy it never saw coming. This enemy wasn't a king or a seasoned general. It was a queen in her late 20s who would become one of their most formidable adversaries. She was a warrior, trained in combat since childhood, and her defiance would shake the very foundations of British rule in India. This is the story of how a young woman, backed into a corner by a relentless empire, became a military commander so brilliant and fearless that her opponents spoke of her with a mixture of awe and dread long after she was gone. This is the story of why the British feared Rani Lakshmibai, the warrior queen of Jhansi. Long before she was a queen, she was a girl named Manikarnika Tambe, born in the holy city of Kashi. Unlike other girls of her time, raised for a quiet domestic life, Manikarnika's childhood was anything but conventional. Raised in the court of an exiled ruler, her playmates were future rebel leaders, while other girls learned household duties. Her father encouraged a very different kind of education. She mastered horsemanship, archery, and sword fighting, skills that would one day define her destiny. In 1842, her life took a royal turn. She married Gangadhar Rao, the Maharaja of the princely state of Jhansi, and was given a new name, Lakshmibai. For a time, her life was that of a queen. She even gave birth to an heir. But tragedy struck when the infant died just 4 months later. Knowing his own health was failing, the Maharaja did what was common practice. On his deathbed, he adopted a young relative, Damodar Rao, to be his successor. He made sure to do this in the presence of a British official, believing he had secured his kingdom's future and left it in the hands of his capable wife. But the British East India Company, a corporate giant acting more and more like an empire, had other plans. The Governor-General, Lord Dalhousie, had created a predatory policy called the Doctrine of Lapse. This rule stated that any Indian state whose ruler died without a natural or biological heir would be annexed by the British. The company flatly refused to recognize the adoption of Damodar Rao, and in 1853 announced its plan to absorb Jhansi. The Rani was offered a yearly pension and ordered to leave the palace and the fort. Lakshmibai, now a young widow, faced a choice: accept the humiliating offer and fade away, or defy an empire. Her response would echo through history. She famously proclaimed, "Meri Jhansi nahin dungi." I will not give up my Jhansi. It was a promise that would be sealed in fire and blood. She first tried to fight the injustice through legal appeals to London, but her pleas were dismissed. The British had made their decision, unknowingly setting the stage for the rise of one of their most dangerous opponents. As 1857 dawned, the simmering anger against British rule finally exploded. On May the 10th, Indian soldiers called sepoys mutinied in the city of Meerut, and the Great Rebellion began. The fire of revolt spread like wildfire to Delhi, Kanpur, and Lucknow. In Jhansi, rebellious sepoys massacred the local British residents, an event the British later blamed on Lakshmibai, though her involvement has always been contested. Some accounts even suggest the mutineers threatened her to get money. In the power vacuum that followed, Lakshmibai was proclaimed regent for her son and took command. The transformation was absolute. She was no longer just a petitioner. She was a head of state and a commander-in-chief. She moved with incredible purpose, not just to defend Jhansi, but to govern it. She organized her administration and began raising a volunteer army, which included both men and women. She even established a foundry to cast her own cannons. Before the British even arrived, she proved her strategic skill by defending her kingdom from invasions by neighboring states allied with the British. For months, Jhansi was an island of peaceful Indian rule under her command. But by March 1858, the British were coming. A formidable army, led by one of their best commanders. General Hugh Rose arrived at the gates of Jhansi. Rose's demand was simple: surrender unconditionally or the city would be destroyed. Rani Lakshmibai's response was just as clear: "We fight for independence." The siege of Jhansi began on March 24, 1858. For 2 weeks, the city withstood a relentless bombardment. But Jhansi did not break. Lakshmibai was a whirlwind of resolve, personally leading the defense. She was everywhere, inspecting the walls, directing cannon fire, and rallying her soldiers and citizens who fought with fierce loyalty, inspired by their queen. The British were stunned. They had expected a quick victory, not this desperate struggle led by a woman in her late 20s. A relief army of over 20,000 rebels, led by the great General Tatya Tope, marched to save the city. But they were defeated by Rose's superior forces. With no hope left, Jhansi was alone. On April the 3rd, the British launched their final assault, breaching the walls. What followed was brutal street-to-street fighting. Even General Rose, a man not given to sentiment, was forced to acknowledge his adversary's brilliance, later describing her as personable, clever, and beautiful, and concluding she was the most dangerous of all Indian leaders. As the British closed in on the palace, the city was lost. But the Rani was not. In an act that became the stuff of legend, Lakshmibai decided she would not be captured. In the dead of night, with her young adopted son tied securely to her back, she mounted her horse. Surrounded by loyal guards, she spurred her horse toward the walls, reportedly leaped over the ramparts, and galloped into the darkness, leaving the stunned British army behind. She had lost her city, but she hadn't lost the war. Her fight was far from over. Having escaped Jhansi, Lakshmibai rode for Kalpi, a town that had become a rebel rallying point. There, she joined other key leaders of the rebellion, including Tatya Tope and Rao Sahib. Her arrival was like a shot of adrenaline for the cause. Here was a leader who had faced the full might of the British, lost everything, and still refused to surrender. Her personal bravery was now recognized by all. But the relentless Hugh Rose was in hot pursuit. After another fierce battle at Kalpi, the rebels were defeated again. It seemed like the rebellion was on the verge of collapse. It was in this desperate moment that the rebels hatched their boldest plan yet. Instead of scattering, they marched on Gwalior, one of the most powerful and strategic princely states in the region. The Maharaja of Gwalior was a staunch British ally. When the rebel army approached in June 1858, he led his own troops out to fight them. But in a stunning turn, the moment the battle began, most of the Maharaja's army switched sides and joined the rebels. Their loyalty wasn't to their pro-British ruler, but to the cause of independence embodied by the Rani of Jhansi. The Maharaja fled for his life, and Gwalior, with its massive fort, treasury, and arsenal, fell to the rebels without a fight. For a brilliant moment, the tide had turned. With Gwalior as their new base, the rebels proclaimed a new government, ready to continue the war. But their triumph was short-lived. General Rose, regrouping his forces, advanced swiftly on the city. The final battle was at hand. On June 17, 1858, the battle for Gwalior began. The fighting was intense. At its heart was Rani Lakshmibai, Dressed not as a queen, but as a cavalry leader, she led her troops into the thick of the fight, a sword in her hand. Eyewitnesses described her as a furious, unstoppable force. A British account from the 8th Hussars Regiment details her final moments. As she led a charge, she was wounded and unhorsed. She continued to fight until she was struck down. Rani Lakshmibai, the Queen of Jhansi, died on the battlefield at the age of 29, a soldier to the very end. Honoring her last wish that her body not be captured by the British, her followers quickly carried her away and cremated her. 3 days later, the British recaptured Gwalior, effectively crushing the rebellion in central India. The cause she fought for was lost, but her legacy was just beginning. So why did the British, with their vast empire and disciplined army, fear this one woman? They feared her because she was an enemy they couldn't understand. They feared her military mind, which could organize an army, fortify a city, and lead a charge. They feared her charisma, which inspired thousands to die for her and could even turn an enemy's army to her side. Most of all, they feared her resolve. When they took her kingdom, she raised an army. When they besieged her city, she fought them to a standstill. When they defeated her, she escaped and captured an even greater prize. She simply did not know how to quit. In a conflict filled with leaders, the British themselves identified her as the best and bravest. General Hugh Rose, the man who defeated her, wrote that she was the most dangerous of all the rebel leaders. Another British officer famously said of her, "Here lay the woman who was the only man among the rebels." It was a sexist comment, born of the era, but it was also a profound admission of respect. In the years that followed, Rani Lakshmibai was transformed into a national heroine, a powerful symbol of courage and resistance against colonial rule. She has been called the Indian Joan of Arc, her story immortalized in poems and songs. Schools and even self-defense programs for girls are named in her honor, a testament to her legacy of empowerment. She was not a victim of history. She was an agent of her own destiny. A queen who became a commander, a widow who became a warrior, and a woman who became a legend. She died on the battlefield. But her spirit, the spirit of defiant courage against overwhelming odds, became immortal. And that is a legacy far more terrifying to an empire than any single victory in battle. What do you find most inspiring about Rani Lakshmibai's story? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this story of courage as incredible as we do, please hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video with others who appreciate the real stories of history's greatest heroes. This is History Replay This Day.